He got down on one knee at my parents' house. I said no because my ex was there. I know how that sounds, but trust me, there's so much more to this story than what you're thinking right now. This whole mess started way back in middle school, when 3 kids became best friends, and ended 15 years later with me standing in my parents' living room, breaking someone's heart while staring at someone else. I'm Mackenzie, I'm 26, and this is how I destroyed a decade-long friendship in under 5 minutes. It all began in 7th grade when I met Noah and Jake. Noah was the quiet, smart kid who always carried extra pencils and would help anyone with homework. He had these soft brown eyes that would light up whenever I walked into a room, even back then. Jake was his complete opposite. Athletic, loud, always surrounded by people. He was the kind of guy who never had to try at anything. The 3 of us became inseparable, but even from the beginning, there was this unspoken thing between us. Noah clearly had a crush on me, which I used to my advantage whenever I needed someone to help me study or listen to me complain about other boys. And Jake? Well, Jake was who I actually wanted. By high school, we had our routine down. Noah would drive us all to school in his reliable Honda his parents bought him for his 16th birthday. He'd wait by my locker every morning with a coffee. Exactly how I liked it. Meanwhile, Jake would swagger in late, hair still wet from showering after morning practice, and give me that smile that made my stomach flip. What Noah didn't know was that Jake and I had started hooking up sophomore year after a party when Noah went home early with a migraine. It became our little secret, the kind that made normal hangouts electric, with hidden glances and inside jokes. "You know he's in love with you, right?" Jake would say between kisses in his basement, while Noah thought we were all studying upstairs. I'd roll my eyes and pull him back to me. "He's just a friend," I'd always say. Between us girls, I knew exactly what I was doing. I'd let Noah believe he had a chance while secretly meeting up with Jake whenever we could. The worst part? Jake and I would sometimes laugh about how clueless Noah was. How he'd write these long birthday cards while Jake would forget my birthday entirely, and I'd still prefer Jake's company. Looking back, we were awful, but in the moment, it felt like this delicious secret that made me feel special. Throughout college, nothing really changed, except the scenery. We all ended up at the same university. Noah following me there, of course. Jake got a baseball scholarship, and I chose the school because they had a good communications program. That's what I told everyone, anyway. Really, I couldn't stand the thought of Jake being at college without me, surrounded by sorority girls who would definitely throw themselves at him. Noah and I shared most classes since we were both communications majors, while Jake studied business because his dad told him to. Senior year of college was when things started shifting. Noah had glow up, upgraded his wardrobe, started hitting the gym with Jake, and even dated a few girls. Nothing serious, though. He'd always find his way back to our study sessions, looking at me with those same eyes from 7th grade. Meanwhile, Jake remained Jake, hooking up with random girls, barely passing classes, and still meeting me in secret. We never defined what we were, but by that point, we had 7 years of history between us. Not that it meant commitment to him. "We should probably stop doing this before one of us gets hurt," Jake said once after we hooked up in his apartment while Noah was at the library. I remember feeling a cold panic. "You're right," I said, even though I didn't mean it. We had the same conversation every few months, and it always ended the same way, with nothing changing. I couldn't let go of Jake. And honestly, I didn't want to let go of Noah's attention either. Between us, I was completely stringing Noah along while holding out hope that Jake would eventually choose me exclusively. I was playing both sides, and I knew it. Graduation came faster than any of us expected. That's when the bomb dropped. Jake announced he'd taken a job in Seattle, clear across the country from our East Coast lives. Noah and I had both accepted positions at different companies in Philadelphia, not even telling Jake we'd be in the same city. I remember the sick feeling in my stomach when Jake told us, that sensation that something important was being taken from me. Noah, on the other hand, seemed relieved, though he tried to hide it with supportive comments about Jake's amazing opportunity. That summer after graduation was strange. Noah started texting me more, asking to hang out just the 2 of us. Jake was distant, busy with moving preparations. I found myself spending more evenings with Noah, watching him become more confident, more assertive. He no longer seemed like the boy who would do anything for my approval, and strangely, that made me notice him more. But still, in the back of my mind, there was Jake. The one who was leaving, the one who never fully committed, the one I couldn't stop thinking about. A week before Jake's moving day, Noah invited me to dinner at my parents' house. "They haven't seen you in a while," he said casually, but something about his tone made my pulse quicken. I figured he was going to formally ask me out now that Jake was leaving. Part of me was ready to say yes. Noah was stable, caring, successful. Maybe it was time to grow up and choose the good guy. But then again, Jake hadn't left yet, and some delusional part of me thought maybe his pending departure would finally make him realize what he was losing. When I arrived at my parents' house that evening, I nearly tripped over my own feet when I saw Jake struck in the driveway next to Noah's car. Why was he here? My mind raced through possibilities as I walked up to the door. My mom answered with a strange, excited expression. "Both your boys are here," she whispered, squeezing my arm. My mom had always had a soft spot for Noah, constantly telling me what a nice young man he was. If she only knew the truth about Jake and me. I walked into our living room to find Noah chatting with my dad while Jake scrolled through his phone in the corner. My brother Matt was there too, which was unusual since he'd moved to Boston after college. Something was definitely up. Noah stood immediately when he saw me, that familiar warmth in his eyes, while Jake gave me a casual nod. My stomach twisted into knots. "Surprise!" Noah said, walking over to hug me. "Thought we could have everyone together before Jake leaves." The way he said it, so confidently, like he was the one who had organized everything, made me wonder if he somehow knew about Jake and me. But there was no accusation in his eyes, just genuine happiness to see me. Dinner was excruciating. My mom had made all my favorites, and everyone kept giving me these weird looks, like they were waiting for something. Noah was attentive, pulling out my chair, refilling my water, touching my shoulder when he laughed at something I said. Jake sat across from me, mostly quiet, occasionally making eye contact that still sent electricity through me. I kept trying to decipher his mood. Was he jealous of Noah's obvious affection? Was he regretting his decision to move? Was he thinking about us at all? Between us girls, I spent that entire dinner playing this twisted mental game, comparing Noah and Jake side by side. Noah with his thoughtful questions about my new job, Jake with his familiar smirk when my dad made a bad joke. Noah, who remembered I hated cilantro and discreetly removed it from my plate. Jake, who knew exactly what I looked like naked. I felt like I was being torn in two different directions, and the worst part was that I was the one who'd created this whole situation. After dinner, Noah stood up and clinked his glass with a fork. My heart dropped to my stomach. "I'd like to make a toast," he said, his voice steadier than I'd ever heard it. "To friendships that turn into something more." He looked directly at me, and I couldn't breathe. From the corner of my eye, I saw Jake shift uncomfortably. Noah continued with a speech about how we'd grown up together, how he'd known since 7th grade that I was special, how the past few months of us spending time alone had been the happiest of his life. I was barely listening, instead watching Jake's reaction. His face was unreadable, but he wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. My mom was practically vibrating with excitement beside me. My dad looked proud. My brother was recording the whole thing on his phone, and then Noah was moving, walking around the table toward me, reaching into his pocket. The room went silent as he knelt down on one knee in front of my chair. In his hand was a small velvet box, and when he opened it, I recognized my grandmother's ring, the one my mom had always promised would be mine when the right man came along. "Mackenzie," Noah said, his voice thick with emotion, "I've loved you for as long as I can remember. Will you marry me?" Every eye in the room was on me, including Jake's, which had finally lifted to my face. I saw something there. Was it regret, jealousy, or just discomfort at being witness to this moment? Whatever it was enough to cement my decision. I can't," I stammered, looking from Noah's hopeful face to Jake's surprised one. "I'm sorry, Noah. I can't." The silence that followed was deafening, Noah stayed frozen on one knee for what felt like centuries before slowly closing the ring box and standing up. His face had gone completely still, but his eyes, those eyes that had looked at me with love since we were kids, were filled with confusion and pain. "Can we talk outside?" he asked quietly. But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I was looking at Jake, who had stood up abruptly. "I should go," he muttered, already moving toward the door. "Jake, wait," I called out, completely forgetting about everyone else in the room. I followed him, leaving Noah standing there with the ring still in his hand. Between us, I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway. I caught up with Jake in the driveway. "Don't leave," I said, grabbing his arm. "Please." He turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "What are you doing, Mac?" he asked. "That guy in there has loved you forever, and you just humiliated him in front of his family because what? Because I'm here? Because it's always been you," I blurted out. "It's always been you, Jake, not Noah." Jake ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. "Are you kidding me right now? You and I, we're more than that, and you know it," I insisted. "All these years, it's meant something." "Meant something," Jake repeated, looking at me like I was crazy. "Mackenzie, I'm engaged." The world stopped spinning. "What?" "I'm engaged," he repeated. "To Olivia, my girlfriend from senior year. We got back together after graduation. That's part of why I'm moving to Seattle. She got into medical school there." I felt like I'd been punched. "But this summer." "Nothing happened this summer," Jake said firmly. "We haven't hooked up since before graduation. I told you we needed to stop, and we did. Whatever you think has been happening between us has been in your head." I stood there, speechless, as the back door opened and Noah walked out. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady. "You should go back inside. Mac, your parents are upset." Jake looked between us, then shook his head. "I'm sorry, man, I didn't know she was going to do that." Noah just nodded, not meeting Jake's eyes. "It's not your fault." "It kind of is," Jake said, and I felt cold dread spreading through me. "I should have told you years ago. Mackenzie and I." "Please don't," I whispered, but it was too late. "We've been hooking up on and off since high school," Jake finished, "behind your back. I'm not proud of it, and it ended before graduation. I thought she had finally grown up and recognized what was right in front of her." He looked at me with disappointment. "Guess not." Noah's face changed as he processed this information. The hurt transformed into something harder, colder. "How long?" he asked, not looking at me. "Since sophomore year of high school," Jake said when I remained silent. "I'm sorry, man, I really am." Noah nodded slowly. "So every time you said you were just friends, every time you encouraged me to keep trying, because she'll come around eventually, that was all while you were sleeping with him?" I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't defend myself because there was no defense. "I've gotta go," Noah said finally. "Jake, good luck in Seattle. Mackenzie, goodbye." He walked to his car without looking back, the ring box still clutched in his hand. Jake gave me one last look of disappointment before heading to his own truck. "You should have said yes to him," he said quietly. "He deserved better than both of us." I stood in the driveway watching both cars drive away before forcing myself to go back inside and face my family. My mom was crying at the kitchen table. My dad wouldn't look at me. My brother just shook his head in disgust. "How could you?" my mom asked through tears. "Noah has loved you for years. He asked your father's permission. He wanted to use Grandma's ring." "You don't understand." I started, but my dad cut me off. "Then explain it to us, Mackenzie, because from where I'm sitting, you just broke the heart of the best young man we know for no apparent reason." "It's complicated," I said weakly. "It's Jake, isn't it?" my brother Matt said suddenly. "It's always been Jake with you." My silence was confirmation enough. "Well, I hope it was worth it," Matt continued, "because Noah's the one who's going to end up happy in the long run. He'll find someone who actually deserves him." They all went to bed angry that night, leaving me alone in the living room where just hours before, my entire future had been offered to me, and I'd thrown it away for a fantasy. The next 3 weeks were the worst of my life. Noah blocked me on everything. Jake left for Seattle without saying goodbye. My parents were barely speaking to me. Work was my only distraction, but even there, I couldn't focus. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a message from either of them, but there was nothing. It was my brother who finally broke the silence, sending me a link to Noah's Instagram. The post showed him smiling with a girl I vaguely recognized from college, Paige, an art major who had been in some of our elective classes. The caption read simply, "New beginnings." "He's already moved on," Matt texted after sending the link. "You should too." But how could I move on when everything had fallen apart so spectacularly? I had lost my best friend and the guy I thought I wanted, all in one night. I disappointed my family and revealed myself to be exactly the kind of person I pretended I wasn't. Selfish, manipulative, willing to hurt others to get what I wanted. A month after the proposal disaster, I found myself alone on a Friday night scrolling through social media when a notification popped up. Jake had posted for the first time since moving. It was a picture of him and a beautiful brunette standing on some Seattle overlook, her hand on his chest, a ring clearly visible. The caption, "Can't wait to marry my best friend next spring." She said yes. I threw my phone across the room and finally let myself cry, not just for losing Jake but for losing Noah, for the years of deception, for the person I'd allowed myself to become. Between us girls, I knew I had no right to feel sorry for myself, but I did anyway. Over the next few months, I tried to convince myself that everything had worked out the way it was supposed to. Noah deserved someone who loved him completely. Jake deserved someone who wasn't hiding their relationship. And me? I told myself I deserved a fresh start. My mom started speaking to me again eventually, though she never missed an opportunity to mention how happy Noah looked in his new relationship, how Paige had come over for dinner, how she was such a genuine person. My dad was more forgiving, sitting me down one evening when I was visiting to tell me that everyone makes mistakes, but it's how we learn from them that matters. "Have you learned anything from this, Mackenzie?" he asked. I nodded, though what I'd learned wasn't what he probably hoped. I'd learned that I wasn't as irresistible as I thought. I'd learned that secrets don't stay secret forever. I'd learned that people can stop loving you, even when they've loved you for most of their lives. What I hadn't learned was how to take responsibility. In my head, I was still constructing narratives where I wasn't entirely to blame. If Jake had just committed to me earlier, if Noah hadn't sprung a proposal on me in front of everyone, if my parents hadn't put so much pressure on me to choose the right guy. 6 months after the proposal, I ran into Noah at a coffee shop in Philly. He was alone, typing on his laptop, and didn't notice me until I was standing right in front of him. The look of surprise on his face quickly gave way to something neutral, polite. "Mackenzie," he said, nodding once. "How are you?" "I'm good," I lied. "How about you?" "I've seen your posts with Paige. You look happy." A genuine smile crossed his face at her name. "I am happy. Really happy, actually. Turns out when you're with the right person, everything just works." The implication was clear. I had not been the right person. "Noah, I started, not even sure what I wanted to say. To apologize, to explain, to see if any part of him still cared. "It's okay," he interrupted. "I'm actually glad we ran into each other. I've wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" I echoed. "For saying no," he said simply. "If you had said yes, I never would have met Paige. I never would have known what it feels like to be with someone who chooses me first every time without hesitation, someone who's proud to be with me." His words stung, but I couldn't argue with them. "You deserve better than what I did," I admitted. "I did," he agreed. "But it all worked out. I hope you find what you're looking for, Mac. I really do." He gathered his things and left, not asking for my number, not suggesting we catch up again sometime. Just a clean, final goodbye. Between us girls, I'd love to tell you that was my rock bottom. The moment I realized how badly I'd messed up and committed to becoming a better person. But the truth is, sitting there in that coffee shop, watching Noah walk away for the second time, all I could think was, why couldn't Jake have looked at me the way Noah looked when he mentioned Paige? Some people never learn. Some people keep making the same mistakes, keep blaming others, keep waiting for the perfect ending that never comes because they're looking in all the wrong places. As I write this, Noah and Paige are engaged. Jake and Olivia are married with a baby on the way. And me? I'm still single, still telling myself that someday I'll find someone who understands me, who loves me despite my flaws, who chooses me the way I couldn't choose Noah. But between us girls, I know the truth. I had my chance at happiness, and threw it away for a fantasy. The worst part isn't losing them both. It's knowing that even now, after everything, I'm still not sure I would have done anything differently. And maybe that's the real tragedy of this whole story.